Hello, you fuckheads and retards, and welcome to another exciting edition of my show. This show is called News of the World. That's when we take stories that are going through the news cycle and we add a biblical spin. All right, so let's get started. The title of this video is Thomas Crooks Can't Shoot? Right, it's not Thomas Crooks can't shoot, it's Thomas Crooks can't shoot. Anyway, before we get started, let me tell you a little something about myself so that I can express a better opinion on this subject matter. When I first got out of high school, I joined the Army Reserves. This was many years ago. And they sent me to basic training in Fort McClellan, Alabama. Or is it Georgia? I can't even remember. Fort McClellan doesn't exist anymore. I think it was Alabama. Fort McClellan, Alabama. And I'd have to look that up. Seriously, that's how screwed up my head is. But Fort McClellan, a non-existent base. So I was there, and I sucked at it. The drill sergeants were always on my case. I was maybe one of the biggest losers that ever went through that Fort McClellan, Alabama place. And they would call me into the day room sometimes so they could rough me up. Not that they wanted to rough me up. I found that I just frustrated them so much so that they had to throw me around to get rid of their stress. I raised their stress levels that high, and they'd say, "Hey, can we see you in the day room?" And I'd go to the day room, and they didn't punch me. They would just throw me up against the wall and scream at me so much that spit would be flying out of their mouths, and then another one would come over and throw me against the wall. And it was a real scene, real miserable. They did hit me with their hats every once in a while. They have those big hats. They call them round browns, and they take off their hat and hit me with it and stuff like that. I was, maybe I deserved it. I was terrible. I like I said, I was one of the worst. And then it came time to shoot. They put us on a simulator, like an M16 simulator kind of thing, and I did okay at it, and they were really shocked. One of them even jumped for joy. He was like, "Man, there's something out here that maybe you won't completely fuck up." And to make a long story short, I'm familiar with the M16 from back in the day. I took the test. I forget how many targets you have to hit. I think 25 makes you a marksman, 25 out of 40. If you shoot over 30, you're at least guaranteed to be a sharpshooter. 36 and above makes you an expert shot, back then anyway. And I shot 33 of them. And then my gun jammed. So when I left the range, you got to tell them, right? You got rounds in the gun, in the rifle, so that they can be prepared. So I hit every target except the gun jammed, or the rifle jammed, which was a common problem with the M16. It wasn't just me. They would jam. Anyway, I did okay is what I'm saying. I'm not dead-eyed dick, but I could do it. And the M6, I bring this up because the M16 and the AR-15 are somewhat similar. They're light assault weapons. I don't say assault weapon in a pejorative sense. Buy what you want. What do I care? I'm just saying that they're light assault weapons, and they shoot similar rounds. They look very similar to me. Anyway, so like I said, I got 33 out of 40 with 7 left in the chamber when it jammed. And I'm not saying that to brag about myself, nothing like that, because I was terrible. I don't even know how I got through it. But anyway, let's get on to the subject matter. Now that I tell you a little bit about shooting these assault weapons, or these light assault weapons. That kid, picture him up on a roof. Well, let's go back to where he's roaming around for an hour with a rangefinder. And then he didn't have a gun. Notice how the story's always changing. At first it was, oh yeah, he walked onto the grounds with a rifle slung over his shoulder. Nope. That rifle was there. It was placed there. The question is, who put it there? It was already up on the roof while those federal agents were in the building. He got up on the roof with a rifle, that rifle was already there, locked and loaded. That's military term. Locked and loaded means you're ready to shoot. So he gets up there and he knows it's a suicide mission. And he lays down and he's scoping out, he's looking at the president, right? People are shouting up at him, hey, there's a guy with a gun, there's a guy with a gun. Then a cop climbs onto the roof and Thomas Crooks points the gun at him and says, get off. He had enough wherewithal. Usually two things would happen. The first thing, he'd shoot the cop, or the second one, he'd give himself up. But no, Thomas kept his cool and said, get off of this roof. And then that's when he hones back in on the president. Meanwhile, they've known about this guy for an hour. And let me tell you the distance. Picture of an American football field plus the end zones, and add another 30 feet to it. It's not a long shot, but it's not the easiest thing in the world when you're under all that pressure. He hones in on the guy, the president. The president. Can you imagine the stress of that? You're about to shoot the president. You got a cop that you've already told him to get off the roof. You got people pointing up going, there's a guy with a gun, there's a guy with a gun. And you know you're going to die. Imagine that stress. He calmly takes the shot. And scores a headshot. Hits him right in the ear. Right? So don't tell me he's a bad shot. I hear these people on the news, that kid is terrible shot. He hit him in the ear. If Orange Donald hadn't turned his head in the last minute to point at charts, the bullet was coming to get him in the back of the head, and then Orange Donald looked at a chart and it missed and it hit the ear. Right? That was a quality first shot by a guy who managed to keep his cool. Now you could argue after that, Donald, if you watch the tape, Donald, he touches his ear, like, what the heck was that? And then he just freezes just for a moment. That's when maybe a guy with complete ice water in his veins could have taken the second shot and put his brains in the begonias, right? But the first shot was a quality shot. Don't let anyone fool you that this kid didn't have any skill. Bullshit. He had skill. Now after that appears as when he panicked and just fires off some rounds, and he's not focused anymore because he knew what was going to happen to him. He was going to die. All right? It was a suicide mission. So no, this kid had skills. And don't let anybody tell you differently. Just imagine you're going to shoot the president. Well, most people couldn't. 99% of people couldn't do that. Who could do that? All right, so this is a strange situation, and don't let them bullshit you. This kid had some training, and this idea that he's without skills, he's just some poor befuddled guy. I'm not buying it. I am not buying it at all. Anyway, I'm at 10 minutes. So I don't like to make videos more than 10 minutes long. So put in a biblical slant. I go to it all the time. But, well, let's go with Kings this time. I don't want to keep repeating myself. You read the First Kings and Second Kings, and it's just corruption and corruption and corruption. This king killing that king, and this king killing the next king, and people get, whole families getting their heads chopped off, and just corruption, corruption, corruption. Times don't change. Well, times change, I should say, but people don't. We're still corrupt. We're corrupt beings. Anyway, I'm going to go. If you like this, press like. If you want to subscribe, press subscribe. I think I'm up to 53 subscribers now. Not great, but not terrible. Anyway, God bless you. Bye-bye.